Donegal in the new year, a direct provision centre, a new direct provision centre being established in Letterkenny. It will house up to 350 asylum seekers. We had Mary T. Sweeney of the Aintu Party in Donegal on the show yesterday outlining issues she had with this, and she suggested in her interview that the people of Donegal, to quote her, are rightly annoyed and angry about this because the location is completely unsuitable.
Niall, I would have received quite a substantial number of phone calls and text messages from people. And the whole query here is the secrecy around direct provision. It led from an independent councillor's statement, and I'm aware of this because I was also contacted 4 months ago by a member of the public involved to say that this was all happening, this was going ahead. And at that stage, it was 250 men, women and children were coming to a direct provision centre.
So in reaction to that, this person says, people of Donegal is a rather provocative and sweeping statement. John says, it's the absolute truth she's speaking. The Irish people needed more than the asylum seekers. Someone else says, it's about time the Irish government looked after the people still stuck in hotels and kids living on the street first before building new direct provision centres. And someone else says, Aintu, we'd like to remind you, are the party that swept to a magnificent and glorious victory throughout Donegal in the recent elections, which didn't happen, of course. They speak for a tiny minority, says this person. Tommy asks, why can't they house people living in the streets and in homeless centres before housing the asylum seekers? And someone else says the homeless don't want to live in direct provision centres. Most homeless people already live in similar type accommodation. Many prefer to sleep rough as they are afraid to live in shared accommodation. And it goes on and on like that. Dennis is on the line from County Donegal. He emailed us as well following that interview. Good morning to you, Dennis. And thanks for joining us. And just to qualify that, you are a member of a political party, are you not?
I am a member of the National Party.
Right, okay. What point do you want to make on this?
Well, a lot of what Mary Sweeney said yesterday stands that it isn't a suitable town. It's been happening in Upderard, Borrisoleigh, Carrasavine. The government have been just dictating that, right, this area is going to be used for a direct provision centre. There's been very little talk with people in the local area. But the thing about the Letterkenny DP centre is that it isn't a DP centre in the way that people would have heard up until now. Now it's own door accommodation. And the problem with that is that looking at the Simon community figures for the Northwest, there is about 80 or 85 the last they've seen homeless people in Sligo, Leitrim and Donegal. A number of them are children, a few of them are couples. 60 flats the government, with the stroke of a pen, could have sorted out the homeless problem in the northwest of Ireland. But instead what's happening is that the homeless here have been relegated down to second-class citizenry in order to fulfil what is an ideological push by left-wing parts of the government.
Well, I don't know if that's the case, but should we be pitting, one group who are in need of accommodation against another? Is that what this is all about? Does that not create divisions in society?
Just the language you've used there, pitting people against society. That was Joe O'Brien of the Green Party who said that when the Department of Housing said that given asylum applicants, own door housing will lead to the government not being able to sort out the homeless problem that we have at the moment. So that is a left-wing viewpoint.
Well, I don't consider it a left-wing viewpoint. I think it's a genuine and honest question from anybody who's looking in from the outside and wondering, why can't we accommodate everybody who needs to be accommodated? Why does it have to be the homeless against the asylum seekers?
Well, who's saying it? Like, pitting people against each other. It isn't a case. The case that there is only so many resources that we have. That there's the DP centre or the DP process is broken as it is already because there is no release valve for people who have failed multiple times for application. Like, you hear stories about people, they've been in DP for 7, 8, 9, 10 years, whatever. But the thing is that they have been applying every 12 months or so and been rejected for asylum. They are not asylum seekers. They are not valid asylum seekers. But all they do, instead of being told, sorry, you have to go, and being brought out of the DP centre, they're asked to self-deport, which instead of doing that, the vast majority.
Okay, well, look, the deportations happen all the time, Dennis, do they not?
No,
We're aware.
They don't happen.
Well, I think they do.
People are asked to self-deport in nearly every circumstance. There has been very, very few enforced deportations in this country, and there is no release valve in the DP centre. And instead of fixing that root problem, the government are just saying, right, we'll just expand the system to every, anywhere, Ballahidrine or any place at all where there's an empty hotel or now blocks of flats. They'll just push the problem out further and further instead of tackling the root problem, which is the DP centre.
Oh, okay. Well, as you know, obviously, as you know, your party has got very, very strong opinions. Apart from the suitability or not of this location, it has very strong opinions on the asylum-seeking process. And your party leader has been very strong on what he calls bogus asylum seekers.
Yeah.
Do you share those concerns, or not?
I do, definitely. Like even if you look at the stats, right? The two countries where we get most of our asylum applications from are Albania and Georgia. Neither are at war. We had about, I think there was, let me see, I have the numbers here. There was 1,865 applications dealt with in 2019. There was 585 were granted in the first instance and 411 on appeal. So this is like that you're talking less than half are genuine, bona fide asylum seekers, and the rest just stay in the system. Very few just choose to self-deport because you get free healthcare. This is like the comments that Noel Grealish made in Upterard last year.
Okay, and is this what you mean when you suggest that when we discuss the issue of immigration and asylum seekers, that it is not a debate, it's less than a debate? Is that what you mean? Your feeling is that not every aspect of this is being debated properly and fairly?
Totally. Like you look at the national media and you look at the bias that is in the reporting. Like even if you look at where, it was mentioned yesterday, the money that DP centres and people operating them are making, that the company that is going to be running the one in Letterkenny have made 100 million since they got into the DP industry, whatever you want to call it. The problem is that that's only the tip of the iceberg. And once you start scratching at where the amount of money that's being put through NGOs, through things like this, like even the Simon Cumbers Fund or the Irish Anti-Racism Network or whatever they're called, like there is a serious amount of money flowing through that, and there is serious reciprocation between the media and the government, and you can see that in the way.
Well, I don't see that to be the case at all. But it seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dennis, and correct me if I'm wrong in trying to suss out where your party are coming from on this, but you it's not really the location you have an issue with, or lack of consultation, or the amount of money being spent. It's the fact that you do not want asylum seekers in your area. Is that a fair conclusion or not?
So at the height of the Syrian civil war, there was very few, I don't think there was anyone really that thought, if someone is in desperate need and there's nowhere else to go, you have to help. It's just the way things are. But the thing is that a majority of the people that are in the DP system are not genuine asylum seekers. That the government, instead of fixing the asylum system, what they're doing instead is that they're just expanding it and expanding it and expanding it to cover up the fact that they will not fix it. And because it is an ideological driven problem. It's that, like, think of it this way, right? This week in the Dáil, the Labour Party have put forward legislation to overturn the 27th Amendment. Now, it was a landslide that was voted, birthright citizenship that was voted out in 2004 because it was being abused. And our asylum system is being abused as well. And that they are doing this surreptitiously without putting it back to us. It was about, I think, 79% voted to remove it.
But we have a system in place, and there is a process in place by which you apply for citizenship and asylum, and it takes way longer than it should do. I think everybody would agree with that. Is that system not fit for purpose, do you think?
No, I would disagree that it's taken way longer, or that it's taken far too long to apply for citizenship. I don't see why it's a trend in Western countries that, you know, you have to be given out citizenships. You know, like if someone gets married to an Irish person, yeah, that's, you know, nobody has a problem with that. But like people that have, you know, moved here and lived here for maybe 5 years, like it's kind of, you know, to the people you know, that would have say an Irish passport or whatever. It's like, what does it mean at that point? Like,
okay, so when are you, in your opinion, when do you become a fully fledged Irish citizen? How many years do you have to be here, or how many generations of family do you have to be here?
Don't start about generations. Like, no, like Irish people, like we're distinct. Like up until around what year? Like the first asylum seekers came into Ireland in what? 1981, I think, when 9 of them arrived. But since then, like it's just been a complete open borders, you know, fiasco of media pushing this narrative the whole time, and a lot of people buy into it. You know, a lot of people don't even kind of think about it. Like they just read.
I don't think it's. I don't think, Dennis, is the media pushing it. I think the majority of people would see this to be a fair system and something we should be doing as a government.
How is it a fair system, really? Like, you know, what is fair about it? Like you have solicitors' letters flying around. You have people staying in hotels that, you know, have been rejected numerous times, and then like it doesn't, like it's only this. It's a modern fad. Like it hasn't come to fruition yet. Like the actual outcomes of all this.
Okay, and what about the sense of decency in people and the need to do something to help their fellow citizens?
As I said, Niall, at the height of the Syrian civil war, people were more than happy to let in people from war-ravaged countries. But as I said, the two main countries that we're getting our asylum seekers from is Albania and Georgia. Both have nearly, if not, a 100% rejection rate, because neither of those countries are at war. They're not under extreme duress or whatever in their home countries, and that is why the system is broken, because they are allowed to remain in the DP.
Okay, I want to ask you a final question, because any time we speak with a member of the National Party on this programme, and we've spoken to your party leader on numerous occasions, we get a lot of reactions saying you represent a racist viewpoint, you're a racist party, you're provocative and so forth. How would you respond to that?
I'd say take up your phone and type in, is something racist? Like, is knitting racist? Is Christmas racist? Is Jingle Bells racist? And just tell me what you see. It's an ideological driven point of view that everything is racist. That if you stand out, like it's a fantastic marketing scheme, to be honest, like that you can have this amount of money flowing around and that anyone who disagrees is racist. You know?
Okay, all right, Dennis, thanks for your points this morning. Let us know if you agree with Dennis's views or not this morning. Usual numbers apply. Dennis, a member of the National Party in Donegal.